To give you an idea, generally speaking, from the time you have all of the parts of the car to completing the car, you need about a month between fitting the parts, painting, final construction of the car, electrical work. You need a month.
And over there you can see we've got the bare chassis essentially now of the ZR1. We've stripped away all of the body panels and various parts so that we could actually scan and create a reverse engineering, a mathematical model. The only place we have to do some structural analysis is on the new roll bar, but we're going to, let's say, over-engineer it. We're going to go safety first, of course. So it's going to be much like a race car, where it's actually going to have a bar that is welded to the chassis, really at a much lower point, and it's going to loop around much like a roll cage in a race car. So it should be very light but very strong. What we discovered is that the ZR1 has an air opening, sort of a ram air on the hood, and we had made the assumption that that was functional, but actually when we took the car apart, we learned that it wasn't. It was purely aesthetic. You can see the airbox here, and the airbox itself is actually what we say blind, meaning that it's actually not taking any direct air. To create direct air, we'd have to raise this up, and certainly we don't want to modify anything that has to do with the engine and mechanicals of the car, because apart from the fact that the car is really fantastically engineered, and I can get into a little more of that in a moment, but that being said, the last thing you want to do is start playing with
their engineering,
particularly in the engine and the emissions. So we want to make sure that anybody that owns this car can go to their Chevy dealer and actually have the car serviced, amazingly enough. That being said, we learned that the air intake was not useful. It didn't have a direct ram air effect, so there was no reason to include it in our styling as well. So I believe in form follows function. Being that it had no function, that means it goes. So once we took the car apart and we really saw the guts of the car, we could also learn where we could improve not just the car itself from an engineering standpoint. Granted, there was very little margin there. Also in terms of weight reduction, the car is already very lightweight. It's really constructed and manufactured in a very, very clever way. It's a very, very well done car. In fact, we were all very impressed. Our engineering team finds it very hard to believe that they can actually make money on this car because it is really, really fantastically engineered product. We're going to maintain, all of the operating systems of the Corvette. It has electric everything, so it's very lightweight to begin with. Of course, we're going to, install carbon fiber racing seats. All the interior panels will also be in carbon fiber. We use Alcantara, which is also very lightweight, very much of the race car world. So pure and simple, pure and simple. This isn't a show car. This is a super performance car. So it needs to reflect that in all aspects of its design, both the exterior and the interior.
Lunchtime?
Noi siamo nati come carrozzieri, mio papà faceva le vetture speciali, la produzione in serie è stato parte del percorso della storia di Bertone, però dove Bertone ha lasciato un segno è proprio nella costruzione di vetture speciali, così come un sarto fa un abito vestito su misura per un cliente, così noi faremo delle auto su misura per il cliente che potrà seguire il progetto durante la sua evoluzione, potrà scegliere i colori, i materiali e avere un'auto speciale, un'auto unica fatta apposta per lui.
A lot of people on the inside were surprised when they saw the final styling model finished because everybody's been looking at it on the virtual screen the entire time. The car was developed entirely in virtual, so with the exception of the physical manifestation of the wind tunnel model, which of course was masked like a zebra, so you really couldn't fully understand the form. It was a bit shocking for everybody to see this object finalized. And of course, in each phase, the car really picks up more detail, more realism. So even from the styling model that's going to be displayed at Shanghai to the final car, there'll be a tremendous leap because you're going to get, let's say, the jewel-like qualities, the layers that come with the fact that it's a functional object and the beauty of the mechanics and the chassis and everything else. And of course also it's going to have its sound. And when you see the car actually move, that's when it really comes to life. That's when you see the soul of the car manifest itself.
So, but speaking from an artist standpoint, you know, everyone seems to be really psyched on the car. How do you feel about the car, being that, you know, you designed it from an artist standpoint? Are you happy with it?
Oh, I'm exceptionally happy with it. You know, at the end of the day, it sounds strange, but, you know, for designers, once they throw that first idea down, if it's clear in their minds, they already see the finished product. So for me, you know, just from when I did the first sketch and Mauro and I started building the cast model, I saw already the finalized car. So for me, there's no surprise. For other people who, you know, of course, aren't in the same headspace and don't know exactly where the vision of this project is going to go completely, until they see the final object, it's more difficult for them. So that's why the styling model was an interesting point in the project for everybody, because it was something that initially we didn't even know if we would do. We thought we would just do the car, but when we decided to do a double presentation of Shanghai and Villa d'Este, being that the events coincided, it became necessary to also do a second styling model. So on top of the fact that we already had a very tight schedule, we decided to do basically not double the work, but, you know, another model thrown in. It was definitely a nice challenge to add to the team, but they responded and everybody's done fantastic work. So for everybody here, it gave us a chance to have a preview of really what the real car will be and the impact of seeing it next to other cars and on the road. And that's what really separates cars like this, being that it's a real car. You know, when you can imagine that it's going to have a license plate behind, you're going to turn it on, you're going to drive down the street with it. It's not just going to sit in a museum and become a garage queen, so to speak, or part of a permanent collection of concept cars that don't go anywhere. That's what's really exciting about working on these types of projects. And I have to say, I've been very fortunate, my team's been very fortunate that we've had these opportunities in the past and again today.